Hello and welcome back to another episode of Modeling Joe's Arcade. This time around we're going to do just a couple more additions to the artwork display that we were starting to put up around the room. Music of the video is going to be just a synthwave mix off of YouTube called Starship. There will be a link in the description as usual. That's just what I'm listening to while I'm working on this. Anyway, let's get right into it. So like I mentioned, we're going to be doing just a little bit more art as I've got time to do that here. Don't know what this picture is all about. And so we'll be creating more textures off of these images that I've taken. I think I've got a few of them done already. We will start with this one. Nice scuba diving picture there, which is 10:09:55 dive. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this over here, and kind of what I've been doing on these is editing them, just making them a little bit smaller so that I can use a little bit less memory in the model. And actually, to that end, while we're working on this, I'm going to turn off the furniture. We don't need those arcade models blocking the view or just causing more things to be loaded than we need. So if I go ahead in here in Paint and I grab this image, I'm going to just kind of select outside like we did on some of these other ones, crop that. It has been a while since I've worked on this, so I'll be shaking off some cobwebs. But I would say that's about what we're after. I want to keep the raw image though, so I'm going to do a save as, and we are going to go, like I mentioned, it's been a while. I don't even have this in my project's hotkey anymore. We'll throw this in textures and we will call it dive. I'm going to call it art_dive so I can kind of categorize some of these art textures. And I'm going to resize this to something smaller. I think 512 might be a little small for this one, but 1024 still pretty big. I'm going to go 1024 on the larger dimension. We'll resize that thing and go ahead and hit save there, and I've dropped it to 0.3 gig. And the dimensions that I have on this are 30 1/8, so 30.125 inches by 20 1/8 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that, and I will pull it out by 1/4 inch. I'll make a group out of that right away. And let's go ahead and create a material that we will call dive. We'll call it art dive as well to categorize it within SketchUp. I want to use a texture image, and I will grab my art dive. I'm going to set the I'm going to set one of these dimensions to the real dimension so that it comes in at least somewhat close. But I can already tell I'm going to have some scaling issues with this thing. So we'll see what can be done here. But let's go 30.125. And I have created my texture. So we'll put that in. And now it's going to be just a matter of finicking with it until it looks right. So let's try to do some positioning. Oh yeah, this is going to be a tough one. I did not get a very good image of this, did I? I'm going to shear it to try to do something to correct this. May have to go for a some processing in GIMP, honestly, to make this thing work. Unless I go ahead and just completely throw this thing off balance and try to like rotate it into the frame correctly, which I don't think is going to work. We are going to give this the old try though. Oops. Let's not do that. We're starting to get somewhere. Actually got 3 of my corners in frame here. Oh, it's just like working with putty, but an image instead, to try to get this thing to line up right. Very close. Let's see if I can bring it home. And note to self to take better pictures. Let's see here. All right. Somehow, against all odds, I have achieved a miracle and gotten this picture to fit on the frame. Let's see how it looks outside of the texture viewer. I'd say that looks pretty spectacular. I can't believe it. All right, so now we will go ahead and try to get some of that frame onto the edges. We'll have to clean these up a little bit as well. But it's going to be a whole lot easier than that last one, I can tell you that. Just go ahead and make it bigger right off the bat. And drag some of that edge up there. That doesn't look great, does it? I'm going to see really quickly if there's something quick I can do to improve that. I guess I could use the top of the image. which is more aligned with the lighting of what was going on that side. Yeah. And we'll kind of learn from that and use this side of the image. Oh, what is happening here? Want to grab this, but I don't want to do what I was just doing there. Just want to position this so it's more or less on the gold. Kind of like that. Yeah. No, actually, there's kind of like, it looks like the picture is projecting on to that side. Oops, grabbed the wrong thing there. It's almost like the fingers are wrapping around like it's a canvas wrap, which is not what it's doing, you know, or which is not what it is. So I'm gonna use my other side of the frame here instead. And I'm gonna scale this up by just ever so slightly to make this a little easier. And I've scaled it up by like infinity almost on accident, but there we go. That's much better looking for what I'm after. And I will grab this face and I'm going to do basically the same thing over here. So I'm kind of thinking back on the side of my mind too about how I managed to square this image up, because that's something I could see wanting a tip on. And the truth is I didn't really use any kind of process there. I just hoped that it was possible and started dragging around the grips until it worked. So if anything, it's kind of a proof to myself that, yeah, you can really get some mileage out of a pretty skewed image over here in SketchUp. Get that a little bit away from the wall so that I can see. And, oops. Because I would definitely say this thing was kind of a mess there. All right. But yeah, I think the key just was dragging it around until it had a result that looked nice enough. Not that it is the best thing in the world. Obviously, like I was saying, the real key would just be to take a better picture right off the bat. And that'll do for lining up the bottom of this frame, I think. Make sure that's still on the wall. We're going to actually position these things a little bit later. Okay. Do a quick save there. But I would say that was another photo off the list. And I think the next one that we'll do will be, well, let's go ahead and try this one. Joe's. Joe is a cool guy. And I've got a picture of the side of that as well. let's go ahead and try to do this one. I've got a nice good picture of that too. I'm going to copy these and drop them into my textures folder. And I'll call them Art Joe's and Art Joe's side. I've closed Paint here. But I'm going to open Paint, and for my side texture, this might be a little bit radical, but we're going to see how it turns out. I'm just going to select an area here, 74 by 74. I'm going to crop that. And we'll just save that. That's probably going to come out pretty dark like a constant color, but maybe some grain will come through. And we'll use that for the side when we get to that point. I'm also going to grab my Joe's side picture. And I've kind of decided I'm not going to worry about the chains that are hanging it up. That's, I think, a little too extraneous of a detail for what this is supposed to be. But I will crop that. And I will resize this one. This one, I'm thinking, can go to a 512 on the long edge. And if that's too small, you can always make it bigger. So let's go ahead and add these as new textures. We'll call this what it's called. I'm going to make it 1 inch by 1 inch. It's kind of weird that it's not uniformly sized. I'm going to override that because I can. And we will also create Art Joe's. I'm going to turn that off. Let it come in how it wants to. I think that may have been the problem before. And this sign in particular is going to be 20 inches long, so I'm going to make this 22 inches because there's some border, and I'm just guessing. Okay, so I will create a rectangle now that's 20 inches by 7 1/4 by 20, and we'll pull it out. I believe it is 5/8 of an inch. Okay, I'm going to pop in here. I've got Art Joe's already selected, so I'll grab it and I'm going to position this thing. So, looking pretty good already. A slight rotation will help. I'm going to actually downscale it a little bit. And I want to grab about like this. Do I dare to distort the texture at all? I think I dare, because I would like to get just a tiny bit of the rough edge to show where I can. If I can. It's not going to be the end of the world if I can't pull that detail off. Okay. I'll go ahead and do that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pop in here with an arc. And I'm going to draw an arc in on the texture face. I'm not even going to measure this, as you can see, because A, I don't have measurement on it, and B, I think it's irregular anyway. But I'll just put in something close. Here, I'm going to go wild, and I'm going to do a little cutout. Okay, now I'm going to pull this back and basically just eliminate those corners. Now we've got our nice irregularly shaped object. And I'm going to come back in here. And where's my Art Joe's side? There's my Art Joe's side. I'm going to make everything else on this be Art Joe's side. And I'll be honest, I don't like how this corner came out that much. So let's see what happens if I just drag that down like that. It's a little better. It's not great. I'm going to drag it out to be in line there and get rid of this line, and instead I'm just going to take this whole face and smoosh it in a little bit. Now we've got something weird. When you do something to fix something, you always cause a different problem. Let's do that. Make that look a little bit better. And there we've got our Joe is a cool guy. Little wood block here. I like it. I like it a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and check that one off my list of art to do. The last one that I'm going to go ahead and do here for tonight is I will do this Bell System Connections AT&T sign. Copy that. Put it in my textures. Under Art Bell, and let's open that with Paint. I say that like it's a huge surprise. We'll crop it, and we will resize that to be 512 by a little less than 512, I guess. And we will add that. Into the model. This one I want to resize to be about 9 inches. Will get us close. Now this one doesn't actually go on this wall, it goes somewhere over here, and that'll get more refined later, I guess, but for the moment we're going to start placing it over here. This is going to be circular. It's going to have a radius of 4.375 inches and a thickness of 1/16 of an inch. And right away I'm just going to smack that with texture. And we're going to fool around with the sides in a second here. I'm going to undo it too because I've done something wrong. Don't know what, but I've done something wrong. There we go. Texture position. I'm starting to second guess myself on this one just a little bit. You can see the edges of the circle, which we haven't had that really on anything so far. I'm going to bump that up to 64 sides. No need to skimp on one little decoration at this point in the game. I just didn't like how that was looking too much. This is a nice, easy one. Famous last words. Just try to get a fairly uniform border there. I will shrink it ever so slightly. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful. And I'm going to pop into Paint and just catch what this bluish color down here is. It's going to be pretty close to black, honestly, but we'll create a new Art Bell side. We're not going to use an image texture. I want to punch in some RGB, which will be 40, 37, 59. We'll create that texture. I'm going to apply that to the sides of this thing. It's going to be a lot easier than fiddling with the image texture on every face. And we will group that up. So I'm going to turn on the games here just to roughly place this somewhere I can find it later. And yeah, we'll go ahead and call it for now on that. But yeah, when we get back next time, we'll do a little bit more of this art. There's a couple pieces of furniture, and I think the missing cabinets have been modeled now by a third party, Gozer. So we will add those in the future as well. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time on 3D Modeling Joe's Arcade. This music mix is really awesome.